I want to talk about NDI groups because it's actually a cool little feature that I think gets overlooked when we're talking about NDI networking as a whole. Groups allows you to isolate devices and only communicate with certain devices on a single subnet. And so it adheres to the single subnet guidelines that NDI kind of assumes, but it limits their ability to communicate only with the ones that we've indicated. And so think of it like an office building or a headquarters. We have support, we have sales, we have marketing, we have logistics, we have shipping, we have receiving. They all belong to the same company. They all operate in the same office, but then we put those departments together, right? We put them in the same vicinity of each other, and they could close their doors and have discussions and whatever. And they operate as a whole, as an entire NDI infrastructure, but they generally work together just with their department. And that's what we're doing here, is that we're giving everybody the same IP range, 192.168.1 on a WAC 24. So we're going to give everybody the same IP range, but then we're going to isolate them basically by departments or by classrooms or by breakout rooms or whatever you want to call it. And a great example, real world example of this is I have an NDI network that I've enabled on a university campus. And I have rooms 1, 2, and 3 in the same hallway on the same VLAN. But I don't want camera 1 to go to decoder on, room number 2, right? I want 1 to only communicate with 1, especially if I'm setting it up with like Crestron or Extron or I'm automating this or something. I just want camera 1 to be shown on the decoder for room 1 because they all belong in the same room. Well, they can all have the same IP range. We can manage this all in a single subnet, but we can limit their view by adding NDI groups. And what you would do is you would create a group, and we do that on the web UI. There are specific instructions on how to do this. We're just talking about planning right now, okay? But there are specific instructions on how to do this. You add the group to the device, to the camera and the decoder, and then when you go and encode, so when the camera's functioning, it's outputting to anybody in that group. Now, the nice thing is that you can do this, and from a customer stance, room 1 is isolated, room 2 is isolated, room 3 is isolated. But say we have a place that has 3 rooms with movable walls. And now I want to use all 3 cameras when I open the walls up, let's say a lecture room, a conference, a hotel, anything. We open it up, and now these 3 cameras need to all talk to each other. Well, we can add those groups now to those devices fairly easily so that they can communicate with each other during the times where the doors are open, but then we can just remove those groups when the doors are closed. And so if somebody understands that system a little bit more and understands the isolation, the general practice is the cameras are in the rooms, in the classrooms or in the lecture rooms while the doors are shut, but then we could change the groups and add them to a bigger system where they could all communicate with each other without needing to repatch or customize the network or whatever. We could just do it locally on each of the devices. And so groups has a great kind of flexibility option when it comes to isolating signals but managing the network on a single subnet.